Hello, boys and girls. This is Miss Cindy again, and we are still on ABC Text Explorers Lesson 1. This is Video 2. Thanks for joining me today. I'm excited to dive in and see what new things that we can learn. Some of the standards that we're going to cover is demonstrating an understanding of the organization and basic features of print. And while prompting and support, identify the author and illustrator of a story and define the role of each in telling the story. So some of the goals or objectives that I want each of you to be able to do is to be able to name and identify the role of the author and illustrator of various alphabet books that we'll be covering this week. I want you to be able to demonstrate an understanding of print concepts through answering questions and creating our own alphabet book at home. I want you to be able to identify upper and lowercase letters from reading out of several books. Students will be able to draw or color a specific letter of the alphabet with parents or a family member. Today we are going to review some of the stuff that we covered yesterday. So we talked about how books are created, who writes all the words, who draws all the pictures. So we determined yesterday that the one that creates and writes all of the words in the book is our author, and the one who draws or paints all the pictures in our book is the illustrator. Sometimes they are the same person and sometimes they are different. At the bottom, if you look, here are some questions that I want you to think about before we start reading our next book. So, how do you read? How do you know how to read? Well, you have to know how to read based off of letters that are in the alphabet, and we put those letters together and those make words. So let's go over the questions together. What letter is this? Is this letter uppercase or lowercase? What letter does cat start with? Point to where we start reading. What direction do we read in? How do we know when an old word ends and a new word starts? So on the next slide, we're actually going to listen to the book Alphabet Rescue, and then we're going to come back and answer some of these questions. So stay tuned.
Alphabet Rescue, written by Audrey Wood, illustrated by Bruce Wood. The letters in Charlie's alphabet had worked hard all year long in school, helping him learn to read and write. As Charlie packed to visit his grandparents, his alphabet took off on a pencil. They were ready for a vacation too. The little letters soared past the moon to Alphabet City, the place where they were made. The next morning, Charlie's alphabet came across some capital letters with a new fire engine. They were practicing with their big fire hoses. "Let us try, please," the little letters begged. "Well, okay," Fire Chief F said, "just for a minute." But when the little letters tried, the hose whipped around like a wild snake, spraying all of the capital letters. "Fire hoses are for big letters only," Fire Chief exclaimed. "Go and play where you won't get into trouble." Behind the firehouse, they discovered an old, broken-down fire engine. Little E and Little X had an excellent idea. "Let's rescue it," they exclaimed. All the little letters searched until they found what was needed to fix up the old fire truck. When they were finished, it looked fantastic. Clang, clang, Little B rang the fire engine bell as they drove away. Soon they came to some letters trying to wash a very dirty car. "To the rescue," Little R shouted as they turned on their fire hoses. Before long, they were aiming them perfectly, and the car was sparkling clean. Further down the road, they heard sad cries for help. 3 letters had climbed too high in a tree, and they were afraid to come down. "Our fire engine has ladders and nets," little Ann shouted. "We'll rescue you." As the sun set beyond the city, Charlie's little letters noticed an angry cloud of smoke in the sky. "Look," little F exclaimed, "the letter-making factory is on fire." "If the factory burns," little X said, "that would be extra bad. Children won't have alphabets to learn at school." Woo-wee! A loud siren sounded. The capital letters were speeding down the road on their big fire engine toward the factory. But as they passed by, a fire blew out. A tire blew out. The big truck spun out of control and rolled over. None of the capitals were hurt, but they were scattered everywhere. When the little letters saw that the big fire engine was broken, they came to the rescue again. "Climb aboard, capitals," little C called. "Our fire engine can fight the fire." All of the letters hung on tightly as the little engine sped to the fire. At the factory, the letters aimed their hoses and sprayed water into the boiling smoke and fire. Inside the factory, they used their ladders and nets to rescue a batch of little E's trapped on a burning balcony. At last the fire was out. "Clang, clang!" Fire Chief F rang the fire engine bell. Then he announced, "Charlie's little letters and their fantastic fire engine are welcome at our firehouse any time." The next day, as they rode in a parade through the streets of Alphabet City, the alphabet heroes were cheered by everyone. At the end of the parade, some of the new letters that had been saved from ruin spelled out a message to Charlie's alphabet. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." The little
Hi, friends. So, this is going to be a little bit different for Miss Cindy because I've never recorded live except for reading books. So, we're going to try to do this together. I really miss seeing y'all's faces, but this is going to have to work for now. So, we just got through reading our ABC Rescue book. I know it was kind of scratchy, but can't help that. So, some of the questions that we had on the slide before was, okay, so let's look, because I've answered these questions for you, and I want you to think about what I have put down. So, the question was, what letter is this? Well, if you look at the letter, and you can see, it's the letter A. Is this uppercase or lowercase? So, I want you to look with your parent and pick which one is uppercase and which one is lowercase. So the one to the left is the uppercase and the one to the right is the lowercase one. So here we have the word cat. What letter does the word cat start with? So if you can see, the letter that is underlined is the first letter, so that's the one that it starts with. Point to where we start reading. So I have just a simple Pete the cat, a pet for Pete. So I'm just using this for example because I want to actually point this out to you. So on our question, if you're going to read a book, so our question is, point to where we start reading. So hold on, let me get this to where you can see it. So if I was to start reading, would I start in the middle of the page? No. I would start right here at the beginning where the first word says Pete, and you would read from left to right. The next one is, how do you know when a word ends and a new word starts? Well, if you look at the words in this book, each word has a space in it. But if you remember, what I like to remember is if I'm reading, I can always tell because I can stick my finger in between the two words. And if your finger fits in between the two words, then guess what? You know where the old word starts or ends and the new word starts. So this is just kind of a recap of the questions that I wanted to go over. So what I want you to do For our lesson tomorrow, because we will recap tomorrow, is I want you to, with your parent or a family member, I want you to go see if you can find a book laying around the house, a magazine, anyone's book. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a children's book. And I want you to point out some of the alphabet letters that you can find in that book. I also want you to point out to your family member whether it's uppercase or lowercase. And then I want you to look and see if you can find the spaces in between the words. Thank you for joining me today, and we will recap and pick up tomorrow. Bye.